How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. I wanted to talk about some of the cold hardy agaves today. So today I'll give you a small list of 5 cold hardy agaves that have been proven for me already and have been proven at far or much more extreme climates actually than here out in the Mojave Desert where I'm at. So the reason I wanted to make this podcast is because I get a lot of people that are in, all around the U.S. really, from the East Coast to the Midwest to the South, and obviously here on the West Coast, asking me. I live in a place where we get freeze. I live in a place where we get, snow or high winds or, high elevation. There's a lot of different climates, obviously, in the United States. And the main 2 species being promoted and planted around the United States right now are mainly Agave Tequiliana and Agave Espadín, which, for my purposes, fall into what I classify as the weak agave. So any agave that cannot take, under 25 degrees Fahrenheit, I classify as a weak agave because they can't take really any cold temperatures, right? So you're limited to mainly the coast, staying away from a lot of mountains. You're limited to the forest with a lot of those. I kind of, like I mentioned, call them weak agaves, but a lot of people also call them more tropical agaves because they're more from like central Mexico and from Mexico where it rains a lot. So a lot of these agaves maybe won't work for people, and lots of people want to get into agave farming. So I thought it would be a great idea to make 5, a quick list of 5 agaves that I believe could go not only all over California, but could go all over Nevada, New Mexico, Texas. You could go into parts of Montana, Virginia, you could go into Louisiana. There's all types of cities and farms around the United States, likely in all 50 states, where these agave could go, right? So a lot of the list that I'm talking about, I think the lowest agave that I have so far is negative 25 Fahrenheit, right? So as long as your climate's under or above negative 25 Fahrenheit on average in the winter, more than likely you're going to be able to grow some of these agaves, right? So if you got some snow, or you're up in the mountains and you got some freezes, or you got all types of varying climates, try some of these 5 out. So let's get started. The first one I wanted to talk about is probably my favorite USA agave as far as style. I'm not going to say spirits because I got another one that I really like for spirits that's a USA native, but Agave Utahensis is a very, very cold, hardy, and strong agave. So this agave is native to California. It's native, let me just double check this actually so I don't get you wrong, but it's also native to Nevada. It's native to Arizona and obviously Utah. That's why they call it Utahensis. So for the purposes of, nursery stock, I really love all 3 cultivars, which are Agave Utahensis, or the 3 native cultivars, which are Agave Utahensis, subspecies Utahensis, and then you got subspecies Nevadensis, and you got subspecies, what's the other one? Oh, Iborospina, which is the collector favorite because of its spines. So I love growing all three of them, but I'll share a little info on the different ones, right? Give me 1 second. Chiba! I want to! Gotta call the goats over here. They found some good grass, but I'm leading them to better grass. So, the Ybor Espina is going to be a great one to grow. Lots of collectors love it, pay really great prices for it. There's maybe 5 gal Ybor Espinas selling for, anywhere from $200 to $500. There are some issues with that. Many of them are poached, which is a fucking problem. A lot of them are coming from development. So say a development happens in Nevada or California where a bunch of Utahensis is at, they'll sell those plants to a nursery, and a lot of people now have a lot of really wild looking plants in their collections because of stuff like this. Not the best either, because most people don't know how to take care of a very drought tolerant plant and usually overwater and kill it. So it's what was I getting at here? What I'm getting at is that the reason it's poached and collected a lot from the wild, even legally, is because people really want it. So if you're a farmer, maybe grow some Ybor Espina. It's a great plant. I'm sure as more people grow it, obviously the price will go down, but most agave in a 5 gal size, people are selling anywhere from 10 to 30, maybe 40, 50 bucks for some of the more rares. But usually in that 20 to 25 range, right? People usually copy Home Depot or the big box stores, which are selling 5 gals at 25 and 30. So you got some price variation that might work on your side there. Agave Utahensis, the 3 cultivars vary a little bit, but they're going to be in between -10 Fahrenheit lows all the way down to -20 Fahrenheit lows. I've seen some tested a little bit lower at around -22 Fahrenheit. I've seen them, all 3 cultivars, in varying levels of snow in different people's gardens and, in the wild. But it's fair to say that, Utahensis can survive freezing temperatures. It could be planted anywhere from, right here where I'm at, which is 3,000 feet of elevation. I've seen people have it in LA, at maybe 1,000 feet in certain mountain regions, and like planting it out in the ground. And obviously it can go really, really high up into what a lot of people, like some of my friends, call the sky mountains. It could be 5,000 feet elevation in some places. So obviously with a lot of that, you're going to get a lot of cold and a lot of wind. Here in my case, I've had Utahensis growing, even 50, 60 miles an hour, and they look like nothing, right? Whereas those days really destroy other plants, and it's tough. It's really tough for them. So yeah, it could take feet of snow, the freezing, the cold. It could take the elevation. It could take, extreme dry, extreme rocky soils, which it loves, actually. It loves extremely mineralized soil. So if you're in a rocky soil that maybe isn't great for growing lots of other stuff, probably is amazing for growing Utahensis cultivars. So let me mention this real quick, actually. The Agave Utahensis subspecies Utahensis is the largest one that I've seen grow width and height so far. Well, actually, out of the wild ones, I'll get to that right now, actually. So out of the 3 native USA wild cultivars, the Utahensis is the largest one, probably getting to, maybe 3.5 feet, And then you're going to have Ybor Espina sometimes clocking in 1-2 feet wide. And then you're going to have Nevadensis sometimes being in the middle of those 2 ranges, right? So it could be 2 to 3 feet wide. But I have seen, and this is one cultivar, I only have them in small form, so I can't really confirm it, but I have seen photos of 4 feet wide measured Utahensis, which is a in a cultivar named Chrysantha, which is a Japanese cultivar, likely coming out of Utahensis, right? So they probably got some Utahensis seed, started this, and voila, you got a little differentiation on the Chrysantha, and it's a little wider. That might be one we need to fucking tissue culture, or maybe start from seed a lot, or, you know, bring over to the spirit world, because, you know, a lot of, like I give an example of the Maximilianas, or, you know, the Agave, not Parryi, what's the other little small agave that the Tobalas, you know, the Potatorums. There's a really, you know, there's a lot of common 2-3 foot agaves that are used already in spirits. So to have a Utahensis that, you know, like I said, that Nevadensis, that Utahensis, that Chrysantha can grow all over the United States and all different types of microclimates that are extreme and really harsh. That's really significant, right? It's like, it's already at a good whiff without human, well, I'm not going to say without human intervention, because obviously the Native Americans were growing them and cultivate, you know, and using them for thousands of years. I mean, you know, what's the natives that were using them? I forget, the Havasupai that are in Arizona, I think is the name of them. But these people roasted them, they consumed them, they made baskets and used the fibers to weave all types of stuff like blankets and, you know, whatchamacallit, baskets and, yeah, all types of cool stuff with the fibers, right? I still haven't found confirmation, to be honest. You know, I'm a history guy. I majored in history, and I personally haven't found confirmation of alcohol being made by the USA native indigenous as far as spirits. But I mean, they've got like 5,000 to 7,000 years of use of the agave, and Yucca, agave, Desilerian, for all native purposes, were probably seen as agaves, and a lot of the knowledge of roasting was utilized in Mexico and USA. So I feel like we just haven't found that evidence yet. I've read some stuff on alcohol being made from the flower stalks, and to think that they knew how to make alcohol from the flower stalks, but they didn't know how to, you know, make pulque or distill when they were trading with Mexican indigenous. Like, I mean, they found corn and agave all the way in fucking Mississippi, right? So to think, me as a historian, that knowledge didn't move up a little bit, yeah, I don't subscribe to that. I just think we haven't found that evidence yet. Much like it took decades and decades of research to find history of the first clay pot distillation in Mexico. And obviously it wasn't widespread. I mean, sure, definitely Europeans brought in a lot of distillation techniques to Mexico that made this shit widespread, but the Mexicans definitely had their little thing going on for a while in a bunch of little places, right? But I got off on a tangent there. So, yeah, the first plant in this list was Utahensis, right? Got a lot of cool cultivars, got some pretty wide. Could take fucking extreme temperatures. It's amazing, you know. I really do believe that Utahensis is got a lot of potential. It's a freaky looking plant. That's why I love having a bunch of them. But as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, I mean, I'll buy like a little 3-4 inch plant and somebody sells it to me for like $30-$40 because it's seed grown, you know, and it's fucking expensive, man. So, you know, I think I have, you know, 100 seedlings that I started. And obviously I have like thousands of seed, but, you know, I just start what I have space for at the moment. And so those guys are going, and then I probably have another 3 to 4 dozen Agave Utahensis cultivars in different, you know, I have all 4 cultivars, the 3 wild and the 1 Japanese, and, you know, I'm trying to just get more and more of them, but it's hard to purchase them because I don't know if people poach them or not. So I try, if I don't know that they're a confirmed seed grower, or like, you know, a confirmed, whatchamacallit, like recycler, or, you know, somebody sustainably getting these plants, then, you know, I have a hard time buying them. So it's like, if there's 10 Utahensis sellers, maybe only 1 of them or 2 of them are seed growers, which limit my buying potential of them, and they're already expensive to begin with. So yeah, that's why my Utahensis population numbers are low. I would love them to be in the tens of thousands, but because it's one agave I plant and I really don't have to do shit. Like, I love it. The same with Parryi, which I'm about to get to. So the second agave I want to talk about is Agave Parryi. People call it all types of bullshit. Parryi, whatever. Parryi, okay? That's what I call it. You can call it whatever the hell you are. So Agave Parryi is an amazing little subfamily of agave. I have lots of the Agave Parryi cultivars. I have Agave Parryi Truncata, which is a very heavily tissue cultured cultivar of it, and a lot of mine are tissue cold started. And then I bought them as small plants and planted them here. And I got a lot of Parryi Kusi or Kusai, whatever you want to call that subspecies, which is let me just make sure that I'm telling you the right info right there, my friends. So yeah, I've got the whatchamacallit, the Utahensis. I can never pronounce that. Huachakua. I don't know, man. Huachua. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about if you're into Parryi. So there's this Truncata. There's a Neo Mexicana. I got the Utahensis. I got another little variety that's a cultivar that of subspecies Parryi, which is hey, woof! Don't get close to them. My dog tried to walk through the goats when they were eating grass. They thought that he was another doggy. But yeah, I've got like 5 different cultivars. I got the Kusei, the Truncata. I got a Flagstaff cultivar, Utahensis, and then the Truncata, which a lot of mine are tissue cultured. A lot of them are just seed started Truncata, but the majority of them I just bought at Home Depot one day when I was bored. So, or over a few days that I've gone to Home Depot. So, I know that a lot of them are tissue cultures. So, but not necessarily. You know, I can never confirm a lot of that stuff. I mean, I know Outman Plants, which is one of the biggest nurseries in California and probably the U.S. of agave. They sell like insane amount of agave, right? Like, they're at the top of the game, and they do tissue culture a good amount of varieties, but you know, I'm not sure if the ones that I bought were. So I could just say they're maybe tissue culture, but likely started by Outman Plants there from maybe pups or whatever. But it's the same issue. You know, a pup is almost like tissue culture because it's just a fucking clone. So regardless, there's just low genetics. That's kind of what I'm getting at in the Truncata subspecies of Parryi. So kind of getting sidetracked here. The Parryi, which is our second agave here, has a lot of different cultivars. But I want to talk to you about woo! God damn, fucking wind got in my throat for a second. So yeah, I want to talk to you about 2 main varieties that I've got here that have been proven to be really fucking amazing for me. Well, we'll just say 3. The other ones are super strong, but, you know, not like these 3. So the number 1 strongest in the Parryi that I believe is going to be what a lot of people call the New Mexico agave, but it's actually most of its native population is in Texas, so I don't know why they don't call it the Texas agave, which is Agave Parryi Neo Mexicana. A lot of people just call it Neo Mexicana, which confuses a lot of people because everybody thinks that Agave Parryi is Neo Mexicana, and it's not. And do not confuse this with the Mexican Neo Mexicana, which is a whole other fucking agave, you know. And so I try to stick to the Latin names because people have all their whatever names, and you know, it's not very helpful. Like Verde, Cenizo, all those. Like every pueblo in Mexico has a Cenizo, and every pueblo has a fucking Verde, and an Azul and, all of that. So for our case, we're going to mostly stick to the Latin names. And in this case, Neo Mexicana is referring to an Agave Parryi from New Mexico and Texas. So this guy right here, oh my fuck, man, can grow amazing. It's taken for me now down to 14 Fahrenheit, and it looks like not one leaf burned, nothing. You know what I mean? I never water it. This is one of the agaves like Utahensis that I never water. I'm mostly watering Americana, Tequiliana. I'm watering some Espadines, Angustifolias. The Utahensis and the Parryi, I never fucking water. These guys grow off rain, and they grow a little slow, but they're going. They're tripled and quadrupled in size since I put them. And the Neo Mexicana is one that I've seen proven down to negative 22 Fahrenheit. It's been just like Utahensis in feet of snow at high elevation with big wind, and it's been grown in a lot of different microclimates that have had, lots of frost and freeze. So, extremely strong subspecies of Parryi. Now, a little bit less weaker or a little bit less strong is going to be your truncata subspecies of Parryi, which I just honestly love it because it looks fucking amazing. It looks like exactly like an artichoke or something, and that's why the nickname of Parryi is artichoke agave. But it just has a beautiful form. That's why it's one of the most sold in nurseries and in big box stores. So, even though I know the genetic diversity of it is low, I'm going to be starting tons of it from seed to obviously not have that be the case past the first generation. And obviously I'm trying to find truncata that's seed grown, but that's a little bit more difficult because it's a slow growing species, and agave hasn't been extremely popular among collectors forever. So a lot of the ones that people have are still small, so hopefully in a decade we'll see a lot of truncata being coming out from seeds. That excites me. But the Neo Mexicana, does get pretty wide. It gets here, let me get the exact width measurement on it. It could get, my bad, not the Neo Mexicana. The truncata is the one I was talking about right now. That one could get up to 3-4 feet wide. The Cusi as well. I think that one might even get a little bit wider. But the Neo Mexicana, even though it's a little stronger, it's going to be, taking a little bit lower temperatures instead of like the truncatas and stuff taking 0 or negative 10. The Neo Mexicana subspecies of Parryi could take, down to negative 22 Fahrenheit. Well, it's going to be a much smaller agave at 1 to 2 feet wide. So I've seen some that are 2 feet wide in the wild, and I'm hoping mine get like that, but we'll see, Here's where it gets funky, right? You can now hybridize it, right? You can go Neo Mexicana times Parryi truncata. You get Neo Mexicana to be a little bit bigger, and you get truncata to be a little bit more cold tolerant, right? So that's where having all the cultivars is going to be coming in really handy once there's lots of agave growers, because you can freeze and ship pollen. So a lot of people are like, I have to wait 10 years for 15 years to have my hybridization program. Nah, just get started and grow whatever cultivars you want, because if there's people that have, I give you an example. If I have a Utahensis that's flowering and I don't have any other agave ready, right, to hybridize it with, I hit my boy up. He's got an Agave Americano over here. Boom, let's do it. Let's do the hybridization. I give him some pollen, he give me some pollen, right? You don't need to have all the parent genetics to do hybridization programs. What you need to have is a lot of friends, and there needs to be a healthy industry where there's a lot of growers with a lot of cultivars, so there could be that trait. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Parryi, super strong, species. Like I said, I will throw in here that the Flagstaff variety, even though it's super, super small for me, people say it's like in the middle of this. So if the Neo Mexicana is the small Parryi, and the Trancata might be, or the Cusi might be, the large one here, the Flagstaff is going to be in the middle. It's going to be around 2.5 feet, So let me get an accurate for the Cusi real quick, because I'm telling you it's the largest, but it might be the Trancata is the largest. Yeah, it is true. So the Cusi, it could be 2 to 3 feet, and the Trancata could be anywhere from 2 to 4 feet. So, yeah, actually the Trancata is the weakest climate-wise, but it's the one that's going to maybe get the widest for you, So mixing it with some of these other stronger ones as far as climate might be cool. So Trancata might be the one that you want to grow for spirits, but then Cusi, and then Flagstaff, and Utahensis, and subspecies Parryi, and Neo Mexicana might be other ones that you sell as plants to people in really, really cold climates, or farmers want to start in really, really cold climates, right? So there's a lot of variation. People, when they say, I want to farm agave, they think everything is just going to go into spirits. Well, there's a lot of people looking to have really nice plants in their landscaping in really cold climates and not have a lot of maintenance. And agave that are really, really cold tolerant fit that description. So I've been the one definitely to... I tell you what, I sold more agave plants in landscaping to farmers. I could sell to a housing complex, 2,000-3,000 agave in a phone call. You know what I mean? Farmers, they're going to want a super low price, whereas people paying landscaping prices, man, I mean, say you pick up a plant from Home Depot that's $25. Most of the time when you install it for the client, they're usually paying around $50 because you have to deliver and install, and obviously you're making a profit. But my point is, landscaping clients are going to be your top price per plant, whereas farmers are definitely going to be your lower price per plant. Most farmers would love to be in around that $1 to $5 a plant range, which, to be honest with you, if you're reselling or growing plants to profit, that's not going to sustain your business. But, different markets is what I'm trying to get you to realize. There's landscaping, there's farmers, there's development, huge development, there's collectors, there's, reforestation. Think out the box. Don't just think you got to sell your agave to farmers, because if you think that way, you're going to probably get the lowest price per plant. The highest price, I give you an example. Like some of these big old 5-foot Americanas, I'll go install in a garden sometimes and charge them $600, because that's what the nursery is charging. You get me? If you go to Moon Valley, shit, it might be $1,000, bro. 2,000. Like, the more affordable nurseries, the ones I'm talking about, that will give you one of them giant agaves for $400 or $500 with the install, But my point is, there's a lot of room in this market to make a lot of money with agave. You have to fucking think out the box. Don't just think that you have to sell in bulk to farmers. I'm a farmer myself. I'm not trying to hate on farmers, by the way. I'm just saying that. My point with these podcasts is to make you a profitable agave and cactus business. So I'm not trying to be friends, or you get me, with or make enemies or whatever. I'm trying to just fucking show you the opportunity that's there for you. But you guys listen to the podcast. I'm always going on tangents. But now let's get into our third agave, because the Agave Utahensis and Parryi showing lots of promise, right? So this is one of my favorite agaves, actually, and let me try to count them up in my head real quick. I probably have 2 dozen, and I have 3 cultivars, maybe 4, because one of them is kind of like unclassified. So 4 cultivars. And this is Agave Montana. So I've got Agave Montana, what you call it, the OG subspecies Montana, right? The one from the wild. I got the Blue Sky, which is, if I remember correctly, it's Steve's Wonder Gardens out of Oso, or no, not Oso, Los Banos. I don't know. He's over here in California. That guy's a fucking OG. You know, a lot of people think that all the Mongaves and hybridization and cultivars, the new in agave, is coming out of mad about Mongave over there in North Carolina, wherever he's at, I forget. And nope, we got some legit ass hybridizers here in California. You know, I've made a few, but nothing like these guys. These guys are the OGs. You know, Steve's Wonder Gardens and what's the other one? The other dude that's a fucking OG. Hidden Agave, Jeremy Spaff. That guy's making hybrids up the ass, and he's a fucking OG. So California's got its own hybridizers that are up in the game, and you know, we need more of them, but those are two great ones. And I'm sure there's dozens of nurseries that have worked on some. But getting back to the point, I got Agave Montana subspecies Montana. I got the Agave subspecies Montana cultivar Blue Sky. So the original Montana is like this green beauty, just giant. Whereas the Blue Sky is a blue version of it, which is freaking cool. I love it, you know. And then I just recently bought 2 Agave Montana babies. And what are they called? I forget. Let me fucking look the name up right now, because I got them from Plant Delights. And Plant Delights is a nursery out of, whatchamacallit, where are they at? I don't remember if they're in Florida. So I'm going to their website real quick. Bear with me, peeps. We got beep, 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 beep. Whatever. I don't know where they're at. I think they're in Florida. We'll just say that they're in Florida. You know, you can Google them. Plant Delights Nursery, you know, Inc. Well, I got this one off them recently called Agave Montana Tiffany, which was quite a fucking plant. It's amazing, beautiful, but it's like a brand new cultivar that came out from them this year. And this is a cool thing, right? Like, it was brought out from whatchamacallit, it was a pup that came out. Let me just make sure I'm telling you the right thing, right? So, yeah, it was a pup that came out from Agave Montana Baccarat in 2007. That's freaking crazy. Or not a pup. It was. See, these guys need to write their thing a little bit better, man, because. Well, it looks like that it was a pup, but it's actually a seed started that they did. They have Agave Montana Baccarat, and then this one is called Agave Montana Tiffany. So it's a really cool variegated form of it that's kind of like this blue-green with like a little yellow. It's fucking amazing. But what I was getting at, it cost me $250 for a 4-inch plant. It was like insane. And then, you know, I bought a Baccarat from them, which is a cultivar Montana, quite a while back, which is also very, very beautiful. You know, this Baccarat and Tiffany cultivar are a little bit less cold hardy than the OG Montana. So these two cultivars, Baccarat and Tiffany, I've actually tried to limit them to the greenhouse, but sometimes I'll put them outdoors just to test them, but not for long, you know. And they've taken down to around 20 Fahrenheit, 19 Fahrenheit. People say that they're tested down to 15. But to be honest with you, I don't want to fucking test it. You know? It's too much. And I think that, what if they die? You know, they're super expensive plants. I don't want them to fucking die. But these are much smaller than the original, right? So the Tiffany and the Baccarat are going to be a little bit smaller, even though they're cooler plants. And here's the thing, as a grower, I'm trying to buy some of these plants because I want to hybridize them and make really unique plants, right? So if you buy really unique plants, that's where the price comes in nice, because I can fucking hybridize this Montana one day with another agave that maybe, I make, and, I make something really unique and new, and then I'm the one selling now a very expensive plant because there's very few that I've developed and now are on the market, right? So you got to pay to play sometimes, you know what I mean? It's like you got to fucking make a little investment so you can make a little profit, because that's the only way shit works in this world. And yeah, let me get to the OG, the Agave Montana. It reminds me of that song, Hannah Montana. So the Agave Montana, it can get, I'm pretty sure, to like 5 feet wide, maybe 6 feet wide. Like some larger ones that are like, a little pampered. But mines are still small, so I haven't been able to confirm what, they're going to grow out to. But from photos I've seen in Montana, I've, seen people visit in the wild and take videos and stuff. They look to be around that 5-6 feet mark, you know what I mean? So maybe the small size ones are like 4 feet. This Tiffany and Baccarat and Blue Sky, they're going to be anywhere from 3 feet wide. I think the Blue Sky might be 4 feet wide. Yeah, Agave Montana would be a great one for spirits, you know what I mean? It's wide enough. It's like the Parryi, Truncata, and the Agave Utahensis, and Caibensis. They're really, good range to distill for spirits, I believe. And, they're going to have really unique sugars, obviously, that are very, very different than what people are used to, I've made extremely small batches, like, of Utahensis, and, I haven't distilled a Montana yet because I haven't seen one in a garden that I've had to take out yet, but I'm sure it'll come to it one day. So it's like, if I go and do a garden and I have to rip out everything, and I see mature Utahensis there, then, I'll bring them all back to the farm. But the biggest ones that are like close to flower or flowering, I'll just, basically fucking, make the piña right there and bring it back to the farm to distill. So they're extremely unique flavors. And I believe the Utahensis in particular, why it has such an extreme flavor, is all the minerals. Like, Utahensis loves to grow in the extreme rocky environments, and it's like pulling all these fucking minerals. Much like Havardiana or Villemoriana, or even, I'm trying to think, like, Queen's Victoria agave. Like, a lot of these agaves that grow out of straight rock, I think they would be amazing spirits because of the amount of minerals that are in their root systems being absorbed into the plants, which are obviously going to be reflected in the sugar content of these piñas. So once again, maybe I'm going to get like a 4 or 5 pound piña from an Agave Utahensis if it's a baby or a small guy, right? Like an Ybor Spina, or, well, no, I mean, even the largest Utahensis, the Utahensis, I've only gotten a 10 pounder off it, 9 pounder, which maybe is enough for around a 375 or a 500 milliliter. So to give you an idea, you're going to get a low return from them. They take a while. But back to where I was getting at, you could plant 100,000 of them, come back in 10 years, and they're probably going to be fucking ready to harvest. It's like, you don't got to do shit. They're definitely not like a Tequiliana. They're one of my favorite plants. So, once again, you got to play with it. Maybe you want to put in some Espadín and Tequiliana and Americana, some of the cultivars that grow quickly and give you a lot of piña so you can make some money quick, but you want to have some Utahensis, some Parryi, some Montana in the back there that might take you a little longer, but okay, maybe I have smaller piñas, but they're going to be fucking very unique and nobody has them, and I'll be able to sell at the price that I want, and I'll be able to, make some unique shit that has an extremely unique flavor. So, yeah, you definitely don't get that from a tequilana. It's like, tequilana is like one of the most pampered plants in the world. It's growing in like amazing environment, whereas some of these agave that are climated to growing in straight rock, they just fucking amaze me. But yeah, getting back to the Montana, 5 feet, 6 feet wide, right? Let's call it that. And then let's talk about its cold hardiness. You know what I mean? Because it's also one that I always recommend to people. It's like an extremely cold hardy agave. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen them, like I told you, in my area, take down to 18, 20 Fahrenheit. Other people have told me in areas they've taken 10. Some people have even pushed them with some shade cloth down to 4 to 5 Fahrenheit. I've had unconfirmed rumors that they can take 0, but that's why we gotta take them into different places. And I love shipping to a place colder than me. I love seeing what the hell people are gonna do. You know what I mean? It's like they're never gonna know their cold limits until they're tested. You know what I mean? So, like, nobody knew the cold limit of tequilana until they fucking brought it to the coldest place, and they just kept dying on them. That's probably how they got that 26, 27 Fahrenheit cold tolerance, right? Because there's a certain point where it can't grow anymore. So, yeah, Agave Montana is an agave that, is native to Mexico, obviously. And trying to get the direct state. So people say it's native to Tamaulipas, Nuevo León, and Querétaro. And the only place that I've seen photos of it in is, what's up, Dingo? How you doing? Is in Nuevo León. So there might be different subspecies of it or cultivars in these different states that people don't even know about, because it's like not so researched of a plant, But yeah, Montana, I think, also brings a lot of elevation to the game, because Agave Montana has been found at like from anywhere from 5 to like 10,000 feet. You know what I mean? So extremely windy, cold, and elevated places. And I'm over here thinking like, well, this can grow in a lot of these mountain regions where there's nothing growing in the United States, and it's a drought tolerant plant that needs minimal water. So yeah, Agave Montana is a great option there, I believe. I forgot to tell you guys where Parryi was native to, but let me just do that real quick, because it is got a lot of different places, actually. Agave Parryi subspecies go into USA and Mexico. It's native to Arizona, New Mexico, and also native to, let's see, in Mexico. Let me double check this, because man, fucking, I was trying to see where it was growing in Mexico, but nobody says it, man. What the hell? Well, oh, okay, found it. Durango and Zacatecas. So it's already growing on this border. It's a binational plant. Really interesting one. Montana, third great plant. And then the Parryi, like I said, it's native to both countries. It's a really cool one too. So now we're going to get to our fourth agave. And the last two agaves are also USA natives. I think the only one on this list that is like solely Mexican was Montana. So let me make this point real quick. The USA native agaves are much more cold tolerant, much more wind tolerant. much more drought tolerant and can take frost, snow, and cold most of the times, whereas the Mexican ones are a lot of the weaker agaves. So if you're trying to plant USA or agave in the United States, and you're in these cold climates or with elevation or any of these microclimates, learn from nature. Don't be a dumbass over here trying to plant Tequiliana in fucking Tennessee. Go plant some Utahensis, some Parryi, some Montana, and the next two I'll get to. You get me? Because that shit will actually grow for you and give you a fucking profitable business. Not Tequiliana. Look, nothing's impossible. I could set up a fucking giant greenhouse here and grow Tequiliana under it, but it's like your goal as a farmer is to use the less resources possible to make the most profit while maintaining the environment and you healthy. So, a super involved Tequiliana process to keep it alive, that's not about that, I literally sold off a bunch of my Tequiliana because I'm tired of taking care of this shit, to be honest with you. So I don't even, for instance, like I told you, it's the number one planted species in the United States right now that people are trying to cultivate, Tequiliana and Espadin. But I really don't give a fuck about those species. First of all, I think they have very basic sugars. One thing, okay, people always say this, oh, we want a high brick so we can make a lot of spirits. Yes, sure. But it's the workable sugars. That's how much sugar you got. Now, the type of sugar that you got is a whole other story nobody is fucking talking about, because the sugar in Tequiliana and Espadin has been, worked on for thousands of years and refined by using clones and by using a lot of these different things to make it the Tequiliana and to make it the Espadin, right? The same with Salmiana. They don't like growing from seed because they say it destroys the cultivar that they've built up over all this time, right? Well, as if you listen to other podcasts, I really dislike monoculture, and there's so many issues with that. I'm not even going to go into that right now. But yeah, obviously, if you're a farmer, if everybody is growing these two plants, don't grow those plants. Those are going to become commodity plants that are going to be on the floor like Mexico with lots of swing cycles. Grow something nobody's growing. You know what I mean? Go over here and grow some plants that aren't weak agave. Don't focus on that shit. Leave that to the big ag on the coast. You know what I mean? The rest of you guys in the United States, go plant some other shit. I believe it will be way more profitable for you. Because even if you're getting more sugar from a Tequiliana or an Espadin, if it's a commodity grown by the hundreds of millions in America, which I think is coming soon, it ain't going to be worth shit. It ain't going to be worth shit. And you'd be much better off growing a Utahensis or a Montana or a Parryi, or how I'm going to mention these last two, the whatchamacallit, what's it? I always mispronounce it. The Chrysantha and the Havardiana are my last two. If you grow any of these five, people aren't growing them. You're going to have extremely complex sugars. They're going to make some great shit, man, that nobody is going to compete with too much because it don't exist. Okay? For instance, even if they make by the millions Tequiliana and Espadin spirits in California, they will never be a Jalisco. They will never be a fucking Oaxaca. To me, they'll all be second best. It don't even matter if people love them here. It's like champagne and fucking sparkling wine. Sparkling wine, there's some fucking amazing brands of sparkling wine. Not one of them is called champagne, baby. You get me? So it's it don't even matter what Big Ag does with those two species. Focus on some other species. And sorry to go off on a tangent about that, but yeah, it's just people want to grow those two things and they aren't going to be very profitable, I believe. And go, if you like, let me tell you something. First of all, Tequiliana and Espadin are both angustifolias. If you want to grow some Angustifolia, let me point you to 20 other fucking cultivars that aren't simple sugar pieces of crap. Okay? I could point you to a bunch of them. My favorite one is probably one that they don't even fucking grow in Mexico, which is called Agave Angustifolia Vardiata. It's a variegated form of Angustifolia, cultivar marginata. That shit is a fucking beast. It gives you pups, it gives you bugles, it gives you seed. It grows fat as hell, it grows fast as hell. Why ain't nobody growing it? And I could point you to a dozen other Angustifolias. Stop trying to copy everybody. Alright, let's stop getting on this tangent. Let's go to the next one. Chrysantha. So, Chrysantha, Agave Chrysantha. This is agave a lot of people don't really know about. I think I have less than a dozen plants of this. Once again, one of those rare rares. You know what I mean? Highly priced sometimes. Sometimes people grow a bunch from seed and have a good deal. That's how I got mine. But usually not found in stores. You're going to have to go to a collector to buy it. Or someone like me that just grows niche ass shit. But so Agave Chrysantha. It's a native to Arizona. And its nickname is called Golden Flower Century Plant. So Century Plant is a lot of the, nicknames for the agaves, but because they think that it takes 100 years to flower, which I don't know why that caught on, but very wrong. I think people just were waiting for so long, they moved, and they were probably like, that shit still probably hasn't flowered. That's why, in the terminology, they caught on as century plant, because people probably thought they took 100 years, right? But that's definitely not the case. Golden flower is probably because of when it's flowering, it looks like a big old golden rod. It's really beautiful. But yeah, it's a pretty sizable, agave for being a USA native. It could get up to 5-6 feet wide. The smaller ones maybe 3-4 feet. And it can grow once again like this Utahensis and Parryi at a straight rock. It's like amazing. And how we've been talking about that minerals. I want those minerals from the rocks and the spirit. And these agaves are able to, have that relationship very well. So the Chrysantha is one that really, really loves, well-drained soil. And you got pups off it. It'll give you a lot of seed when it blooms, like every other agave. So that's where I think maybe a couple of us, in the USA that are farmers or, nurseries, need to start getting some of these, because we're going to be able to mass propagate them if we could get some seed pretty soon. I think a lot of these these plants that are out on the market right now, I can never prove nothing, so always take the shit I'm saying there with a grain of salt when I tell you something like this. But I think that a lot of that seed grown Chrysantha was probably seed taken from the national parks and shit, and people just grew them out. But what wasn't, right? I mean, everything was stolen at some point from the parks, and people propagated them out, and maybe there's a whole bunch of them now. But the point I'm making is we need to maybe find a good way to coordinate seed collection, because for instance, here with my Echinocactus polycephalus, I have a 1% wild propagation rate, while I got about 80%. So if we could do some research on Chrysantha and we see that less, a 1% of them are hitting out in the wild, and then you can have a 80-90% propagation rate of them, then maybe we could partner with a national park to legally harvest them, not secretly, and then we can propagate them for the agave industry in the United States, because this is one of the largest USA natives. It's very interesting one, and it takes very, very cold temperatures. That's kind of what this whole podcast was. It's like the cold hardiness on Chrysantha is fucking insane, man. I mean, it takes down to -5 Fahrenheit. For agave, that's very, very strong. Like, I probably shouldn't have started with the Parryi and Utahensis first, because they're like the fucking strongest ones. But it's like, here this Chrysantha, it's a runner-up for sure. It's a OG, and once again, really windy, tolerant agave. It's an agave that tolerates the elevation a lot. They've been found up to 7,000 feet, maybe a little less actually. I don't remember if it was 6,000 or 7,000. They're really, really strong agaves that can take cold, frost, snow. A little bit less snow and frost than maybe the Utahensis and the Parryi Neo Mexicana, but nonetheless very strong. Like for me in my area where I never get more than a few inches of snow, this would be perfect for me. But if you're over there in, once again, maybe Tennessee, Chrysantha, maybe you want to put a little shade tarp on when it snows or something. So, but Utahensis, you could go out there like nothing. So, yeah, the Chrysantha, very strong plant, and it's a plant that can take, sometimes a decade to grow. A lot of these USA natives may take a long time to grow, but here's the thing that I always tell people. Sure, if they're grown wild like I do, right? Like I don't really try to water them if they're USA natives, because I know that they'll just grow really strong and I don't have to put in much resources. So when they come, I'll make a good profit from them, right? The point I'm trying to make there is that because they take so long, people how can I word this? If you're growing them in a dry farm climate, they may take 10-15 years. But what if you irrigate them to double what they receive in the wild, or 50% more irrigation supplemented with fertilizers? You might be pushing that double the speed, right? So you might be pushing these to 7 years, 8 years to harvest. But once again, is that more profitable? Because me at year 10 or 15, I'm going to pump them out with just using the animals and no irrigation. And imagine 15 years, or 8 years, or even 7 of heavy irrigation and fertilizing. What does that mean in money terms for a farm? Because it costs money to turn that fucking tractor on, or have Pancho or Javier, I'll use my name, Esteban, out there with the fucking fertilizers. It costs a lot of money, okay? I tell you, that's one of the biggest reasons I've been taking my time on replanting the farm and, making sure that I have this second cycle correct, because the first cycle I did what the gringos did, the Americans, heavy irrigated and heavy fertilizer, and yes, they grew quick. I got some Vilmorianas pump out in 4 or 5 years. Insane, right? People say it takes 7 or 8. And that's actually what I'm, now that I'm dry farming, what my Vilmies probably will take. But I'll tell you what, my 8-year-old Vilmoriana that I will harvest will make me triple or quadruple the money that those 4-year-olds did, based on the resources that I use. And that's why I'm fucking dry farming, because it's more profitable. I'm an environmentalist. I love the environment and shit, but a lot of, why don't everybody recycle every single thing that they do? It's not profitable, right? It's why does everyone not live the most ecological life? It costs money, you get me? So it's I would love to run everything environmental, but you have to make money to do it. And, it just so happened that the more profitable dry farming agave system run by animals and not labor brings in more profit and saves the environment. So it ended up working out, but that might not be the case. So let's get to this agave Havardiana. So Agave Havardiana is so it's called Harvard's agave, or Harvard's agave. Sorry, I don't know why I say Harvard with the R. Probably because the school or whatever is stuck in my head. But the Havardiana is one native. It's another binational like the Shawi and the the Parryi. This one is located in Texas and Chihuahua and Coahuila, right? But it's I haven't really seen it too much in Chihuahua or Coahuila, so I don't know if like it's just been harvested to shit out there or what. But in Texas, you see a lot of it actually. So I wonder what's going on there. But yeah, it's another agave. It gets pretty good on the elevation. It can be several thousand feet high up, 2,000 feet high up. Not like the Utahensis or the Montana that it can go super way up there. But, that's its preferable climate. When I tell you that it's growing at 2,000 feet, that doesn't mean you can't go put it at 10,000. You get me? It just is its optimal range. So, obviously, the wild has been developing for millions of years. If it did not expand into lots of areas that are not in its optimal range, you got to learn from that. You get me? Like if agave, for Havardiana, for instance, its cold hardiness is, if I remember correctly, -20 or -25 Fahrenheit. So obviously, it didn't expand into those little areas that could go -30, -40, -50, right? It expanded in these certain areas that could take -20, and everywhere else that, it could compete with the wild ecology, right? So here's the thing. Maybe it didn't expand into these other areas because of climate, but maybe it could go into... Hey! ¿Qué está haciendo? What are you doing? That's your sister. What are you doing, Gana? Váyase para allá. Andate. Aquí jugar, no. Andar chingando. Fucking doggies. One was running super fast and the other one couldn't catch her. And she just fucking try to bite her leg to get her to stop. Crazy. Don't play like that, you guys. I'm going to pull you guys inside and you guys keep messing around. So, fucking getting back to the point here. My bad, I had to stop my doggies. They're crazy sometimes. They get bored and play with each other a lot, but the ones that aren't as fast of runners get antsy when they can't catch the other one. So, yeah, like what I was mentioning is that, Havardiana, for instance, it's not in California, even though the climate is correct, right? So, it's a plant that I'm growing here. It maybe didn't expand here because of competition, not because of climate, right? So you have to recognize these things and say, okay, how can I expand where this agave is going, but make sure to stay within or close relative to its optimal range, right? So you may even push it a little colder or a little hotter or a little more windy, a little more elevation, but at the end of the day, its optimal range is just a great place to start. So, Agave Havardiana, right? Very, very strong agave. It can take cold, obviously, as I mentioned. It could take the snow, it could take the frost, it could take the freezes. This is one I haven't seen. So Chrysantha and Havardiana, Agave Havardiana, I haven't seen any cultivars of, and I've actually been searching quite a bit because sometimes what's weird is the cultivars are a little bit cheaper than the OG of the plant, but I haven't been able to find any. So I'm a little disappointed in that because that means people aren't growing them from seed and seeing new shit, or growing a bunch of them and seeing new pups or new bugles, or you get me? Because that's where the cultivars come from. And all these new ones, right? There has to be genetic, there has to be some work. So hopefully we see a few of those come out one day. I mean, my Havardiana, they're like little 4 or 5 inchers, you know what I mean? Like, I got about 2 dozen of them, and they're very, very small, very, very slow growing, and I'm not sure if that's due to the pot, but they're just pretty slow growing. What I'm trying to do is grow those out to seed, not even use them for spirits, and then, well, you know me, fucking experimenter. I'll always keep 1 or 2 to just see what's up and make some funky stuff. But, you know, the majority of them, I want them to go to seed so I can mass propagate them and make them available to farmers and collectors and nurseries all over, you know, California and America. You know, so I'd love to grow Havardiana out to seed, see what cultivars I can make, and, you know, expand that agave into agave industry. And here's the cool thing, you know, I mean, we've been hearing a lot about this viral piracy and, you know, loss of genetics from Mexico, and I mean, I got lots of opinions about that. We can debate that all day, but let me tell you something. If Mexico ever closes itself off to shipping agave to America, the reverse will happen. You get me? Like, Mexico or America will close itself off to shipping agave to Mexico. And that's something I don't want. Because here's the thing. Agave Havardiana, if I grow thousands of it from the seed that I get, right? And I got, let's just make a fucking example. I got 10,000 of these, right? And I sell 5,000 all over the U.S. Cool. A buyer comes from Mexico. He says, I want those other 5,000. I live in super snowy, super high elevation, super shitty fucking place in Mexico over here that none of these other agave in Mexico can hit. I would love this USA agave so that I can continue doing, you know, my culture in this area. That's a scenario already coming to my table. I've had a lot of people ask me for agaves in good quantities that I can't provide in Mexico, and I believe there'll be a binational trade of agave, you know, a global trade of agave. And you don't want countries limiting themselves or closing the door to innovation, these different cultivars from other countries, you know. I mean, there's thousands of cultivars, subspecies, hybrids, interspecies hybrids that America and the world has made as a whole, that any country that closes itself off will suffer. I guarantee it. You know, agave genetics, the more agave that any country has, it's good. I'm not the one there, you know. It's like, I understand where a lot of this conversation's coming from, but I'll tell you this, it's like, I look at the plants almost like immigrants. You know what I mean? If you want the plants to only stay in the country they're from, what's the difference between that and racism? And I'll tell you what, let me introduce a little words for you right here, if you're not familiar with this word. Plant nativism. It's a belief that plants should only stay in the places that they were born. If that was the case, we would not have fucking agriculture around the world, okay? You would not have blueberries growing in my home state of Jalisco. You would not have corn growing in fucking Mississippi. You would not have, you know, Italy's grapes growing all over the world. We are a global world. So as much as some people would love to fucking bring racism to plants, I'm not gonna fucking stand for that shit. So people can have their opinions and shit, whatever, but, you know, we definitely need to protect culture and stuff and be respectful, but to cut off a country from plant genetics, it's not the right way, man. That's just my 2 cents right there, but yeah. Fuck, how long is this podcast? 70 minutes? It took me 70 minutes to tell you guys Agave Utahensis, Agave Parryi, Agave Montana, Agave Chrysantha, and Agave Havardiana are the 5 most cold hardy species, I believe. Maybe there's some other ones, but they're a great start. And I believe that these 5 species will be the species that make America a great agave industry. You know what I mean? They're big enough, they're diverse enough, they're cold hardy enough, they're elevation hardy, they're wind hardy, they could take the frost, they could take the snow, all that. This ain't no weak ass Tequiliana right here. This ain't no weak ass Parryi. These are gonna be the plants that go all around the world. And I hope to be a part of that. I hope to see the agave industry in America be extremely healthy and grow and take agave all around the world. And I've already started to do some of that. I've shipped agave to multiple countries, multiple states, and you know, this shit's just getting started. But go out there and plant some agave. I wanted to make this podcast just because I know that there's a lot of people living in like Montana, Washington, Iowa, Oregon, all these cold ass places. And they're always like, what can I grow? What can I grow? Because obviously not Tequiliana or Parryi. And that's what everybody's like, oh, let's, you know, California agave spirits, right? Everybody's growing Tequiliana and Parryi. You know, Hawaii, they got Tequiliana. You know, Australia, they got Tequiliana. You know, South Africa, a little different. We got some Americana in the game. You know, we're looking over there at Venezuela. We see you with that kukui. We see you with that agave kukui. You know, and I don't remember the Agave Parryi, but I got some Guatemalan agave. You know, that were seed grown that I bought, and those agave, I specifically looked for them because my grandpa in Guatemala grew them. And the point I'm trying to make here, there's a lot of really cool, diverse agave industries around the world. Don't just focus on Tequiliana and Parryi. These monocultures aren't good. So go out there and plant some cold hardy shit. Make your farm prosper. I don't care if you're in Tennessee or you're in fucking Alaska or some shit. There is an agave that can make it most likely in your microclimate, you know, as long as you're not going under negative 20 Fahrenheit, right? So most of these places aren't. I give you an example. I had a client hit me up from Nashville, a little bit outside of Nashville, right? And I think the coldest temperature, like I looked up all their average, you know, climate records and data and all that, and it surprised me that the lowest they got there in Tennessee was like some light snow, and got down to like 15 or 10 or whatever. And I was like, oh bro, I thought you could only grow fucking Agave Parryi over here. Let me give you a little more expanded of a list. But you know, I try to help a lot of people out, and you know, the consultant, I definitely help a lot of companies out, and I can't wait to see the day an agave farm is in Tennessee or Iowa. You know what I mean? I can't wait for that. California, you know, it's like, oh, I know people make a joke of it, but it really is like Mexico already. You know what I mean? When it gets into these other states that are really, really in like deep America, it's gonna get interesting, man. It's gonna be really cool. Well, I don't want to keep y'all for too long. Well, you're probably listening to this while you work like I do. That's why I like podcasts, because you can do other shit and still be productive while you absorb and learn. Yeah, thanks for listening, and if you got any podcast ideas, let me know. I probably got this question, no joke, 50 different people. So I've got other podcasts in the line, but I'm like, all right, I got to make a podcast on this and just send it to people, because it's like, I'm tired of answering the same question. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a consultant. I pay, you know, people charge me I charge them, you know, anywhere from $100 to $250 an hour to fucking talk to me. Like, yes, I want to answer your questions and help, but I don't have time like that, bro. That's why I charge people a fucking bunch of money to consult with me, okay? And like, don't even get me started on consulting project cost, right? Like that could be stupid money. But it's like, point I'm getting at, I'll try to help you when I can. And a lot of the times I don't have a lot of time, but I have time for what I like to do. And I like to make sure that the agave industry grows and prospers. So, okay, maybe I don't have time to answer 50 people's questions on what cold tolerant agave can fucking live in their microclimate. But here's a fucking podcast, and all those 50 people could go listen to it. So that's my way to answer 50 people's questions in one go. I hope you learned something today, and you want to go plant one of these 5 agave subfamilies, or many of the cultivars I mentioned today, and I hope they grow amazing for you. And yeah, have a great rest of the day, everyone. The next podcast I'm bringing out, sorry, just ate before this. The next podcast I'm bringing out, I'm gonna talk about cactus farming in Italy and Europe. Actually, I already recorded and stuff. I wanted to bring it out before this, but 4 people hit me up with this question today, and I'm like, all right, bro, I'm tired of answering this shit. Let me just go make a podcast while I walk the goats, you know? And, it's almost 5 p.m. It's time to take the goats back in. So, that's all the time we got. I'll catch y'all later, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.